Alright, as we remember, believability and motivation are crucial in making lighting feel cinematic. We added a fairly intense sunshine. What we can do next is play with it some more and add a bit of bounce for that light. There is something to be expected in this type of scene, like the sun is reflected off the floor or walls. So let's isolate our sun lamp for a moment and add in some sort of a bounce. Actually, we already have it sitting in the fill collection and waiting for its time. We can push it in the way of our sunlight to bounce some exposure back on the face, like that. Now it can be called what is sometimes called light sandwich, reflecting it from the complementary side. I wonder if you agree, this secondary light bounce kind of puts this sunlight into context by giving it an interaction with some surface. That's how I feel about it anyway. Okay, the amount of exposure returned depends on the color of its material. And just as we did before, we can break the energy conservation law there and actually give it a value that is brighter than 1, brighter than white. We can give it a reflectance value of whatever, 2 or higher, making it reflect twice as much light as it receives, or 4 times as much light. Then supposedly the sunlight bounced off the floor something like of a brownish surface, picking up its warmer tone. Thus I'm experimenting with the yellowish tint for that bounce. Now it's really warm. Be careful not to go too wild with the value though. It starts to look really sourcey and emissive really quickly. It becomes no different from using an area light. So I'm rolling it back to 4. As for the placement, well, I'll still keep it on the complementary side, I think. It looks good to me so far. Now, do you want to have a look at all the lights in tandem? No worries, here we go. Here we go. Now we have nice and probably a little bit too strong bounce simulating the sun reflected off something. Do I like it? Probably. It makes it more believable, but somehow I think I have slightly overdone it. Let's see what we can do about it. To make it a bit more subtle, I'm going to move the bounce somehow off to the side and maybe to the bottom like that. And I'm going to desaturate its color as well. Yeah, it's really dangerous to overplay any individual light. It may look punchy on its own, but it breaks the setup. Like this fill here. It's punchy? It is. Does it drag our lighting setup into an unpredictable direction? Also yes. So let's stick to a more plausible reflectance value. A brief summary of this step for you folks. We've already had a fair amount of ambient fill in our scene, coming more or less from all directions. So technically that's all we need to control the contrast. That being said, after blasting it with the sun lamp, it made sense to bounce it off on the opposite side, from the floor or some surface over there, although it obviously doesn't exist in the scene, but we can still simulate it. And that something gave our bounce a brownish color, let's say. The extra exposure coming in from that direction could have made it look like there is something there outside the camera view that's able to bounce it back. It also helped with emphasizing how strong is the sun really, that secondary bounce. I really hope you have a relatively easy time following our lighting setup so far. Next we're gonna talk about practical lights. It will be exciting. If you want to share your results and just talk about anything, feel free to join our Discord, where we have the students chat for this course. I'll be happy to see you there and on our Twitter as well, and just everywhere. Let's get in touch. Okay, the next video will be about practical lights. I will see you there.